Let me ask you something. Why do we love cats? No, seriously. Why has humanity been obsessed with these small, fuzzy predators for thousands of years? They don't really need us. They're not loyal like dogs. They knock things off tables for fun. They judge us constantly. And yet, we worship them. We fill the internet with cat videos. We rearrange our furniture around their comfort. We call ourselves their servants, not their owners. Here's the thing. The ancient Egyptians did the exact same thing, except they took it further. They made cats divine. They made killing a cat punishable by death. They mummified cats by the thousands, burying them with the same care they gave to human royalty. And at the center of this feline obsession stood Bastet, the cat goddess, protector of homes, bringer of joy, guardian against evil, and possibly the most misunderstood deity in the entire Egyptian pantheon. Because here's what they don't tell you. Bastet wasn't always a cute house cat. She started as something far more terrifying, and the transformation from savage to sweet, from destroyer to protector, from lioness to house cat, that journey reveals something profound about how societies change, how gods evolve, and how we package violence into something we can live with. I can't give you every detail about Bastet worship because, honestly, it's shifted dramatically over 3,000 years, and we've lost huge chunks of the evidence. But what I can show you is a pattern, a story about power and femininity, about domestication and wildness, about how we turn things we fear into things we love, and what we lose in that transformation. Picture this. It's the Old Kingdom, maybe 2500 BCE. The Nile is flooding, crops are growing, and Egypt is expanding its borders, fighting off enemies, asserting dominance over neighboring territories. And when the pharaoh goes to war, when he needs divine protection and savage strength, he invokes a goddess, but not a gentle one, not a nurturing mother figure. He invokes Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of war, plague, and destruction, whose breath creates the desert, whose rage can destroy cities, who once nearly wiped out all of humanity in a drunken rampage. Now here's where it gets complicated. Bastet and Sekhmet might have been the same goddess originally, or different aspects of the same divine force, or regional variations that got blurred together. The sources contradict each other. Different cult centers told different stories, but the pattern is clear. There was a fierce, lioness deity associated with the sun's scorching heat, with royal power, with violent protection. And over time, in some places, she softened. She became Bastet, depicted not as a roaring lioness, but as a domestic cat or a woman with a cat's head. Why? What happened? Some scholars argue it reflects Egypt's own transformation from an aggressive, expanding empire to a more stable, inward-looking civilization. Others point to changes in religious practice, shifts in what people needed from their gods. But I think there's something deeper going on, something about how we domesticate not just animals, but concepts, how we take raw, dangerous power and reshape it into something we can keep in our homes. Let's talk about cats themselves for a second. The African wildcat, ancestor of all domestic cats, lived on the edges of early Egyptian settlements, hunting the mice and rats that infested grain stores. At some point, probably around 4,000 years ago, humans and cats formed a partnership. Not like dogs, who we actively bred and trained. Cats essentially domesticated themselves, choosing to live near humans because it was convenient, because we provided abundant prey and shelter. They tolerated us. We fell in love with them. And the Egyptians really fell hard. Cat remains have been found in homes, temples, cemeteries. Families kept cats as pets, valued them, mourned them when they died. The Greek historian Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, so take this with a grain of salt, claims that when a house cat died, everyone in the household would shave their eyebrows in mourning. He said that if there was a fire, Egyptians would prioritize saving the cats over their own possessions. He even claimed that killing a cat, even accidentally, could result in the death penalty. Is all that true? Probably exaggerated, but based on something real. The Egyptians did venerate cats in a way no other ancient culture did. And at the center of this veneration was Bastet. Her main cult center was Bubastis in the Nile Delta, and once a year, hundreds of thousands of people, Herodotus claims 700,000, which is almost certainly inflated, but gives you a sense of scale, would travel to Bubastis for Bastet's festival. He describes it as one of the wildest celebrations in Egypt, people drinking, dancing, singing, making music, women lifting their skirts provocatively at men on the shore as their boats passed. It was ecstatic, joyful, sexually charged, the opposite of the solemn dignity we usually associate with Egyptian religion. What was this festival really about? On one level, it was agricultural, a harvest celebration, thanking the goddess for abundance and protection. But on another level, it was about release, about letting loose the controlled violence and sexuality that had to be suppressed in daily life. Bastet represented domesticated danger, contained wildness, safe transgression. You could worship her without fear because she'd been transformed from the raging Sekhmet into something smaller, more manageable, but still retaining that feline unpredictability. Here's where it gets really interesting. Bastet became associated with pregnancy, childbirth, and protecting children. Think about that symbolism. Cats are fiercely protective mothers. They're also deadly hunters. They can switch from purring affection to lethal violence in an instant. They embody the duality of femininity that patriarchal cultures have always struggled with. The nurturing mother who was also capable of savage defense. The gentle caregiver who was also a predator. And the Egyptians didn't shy away from this duality. They honored it. Bastet was joy and protection, yes, but also hidden claws. She was the guardian of the home who could become a defender against evil. Amulets of Bastet were worn for protection against disease, against bad luck, against malevolent forces. She wasn't just cute, she was powerful. Let me pull in something from way outside Egyptian mythology: modern neuroscience. Research shows that when humans interact with cats, our brains release oxytocin, the bonding hormone associated with trust, love, and social connection. Cats, meanwhile, experience a similar neurochemical response. We're literally chemically bonding with these animals. And this isn't cultural, it's biological, ancient, hardwired into our mammalian brains. The Egyptians didn't know about oxytocin, but they knew cats made them feel good. They knew that having a cat in the home brought comfort, protection against vermin, companionship without the neediness of dogs. And they made that feeling sacred. Bastet wasn't just a metaphor, she was the divine embodiment of the actual experience of living with cats, of that mixture of affection and independence, warmth and mystery. But here's what troubles me, what should trouble you. The transformation from Sekhmet to Bastet, from lioness to house cat, mirrors a larger pattern in how societies handle feminine power. The savage goddess, the one who could destroy armies, who answered to no one, who was rage and heat and danger, she gets softened, domesticated, turned into a protector of home and hearth. She's still powerful, yes, but her power is now contained, channeled into acceptable forms. She guards the domestic space rather than conquering foreign lands. Is this evolution or suppression? Did Bastet emerge because Egyptian women had more agency in domestic religion, more say in household worship, and they preferred a goddess they could relate to? Or did the priesthood and political authorities deliberately reshape a dangerous goddess into something less threatening, more controllable, more aligned with keeping women in domestic roles? I don't have a clean answer. Probably it's both. Probably it's neither. Mythology doesn't have simple origins. It's layered, contradictory, shaped by thousands of individual choices and social pressures over centuries. But the question is worth sitting with. What do we lose when we domesticate the wild? What power do we sacrifice when we make the dangerous safe? Let's jump forward to the Greco-Roman period, because this is where Bastet's story gets even more complex. The Greeks encountered Bastet and immediately equated her with Artemis, their virgin huntress goddess. Makes sense surface levelly, both associated with animals, both protectors. But Artemis is austere, cold, vengeful against anyone who violates her purity. Bastet is joyful, sensual, associated with music and dance and pleasure. The comparison shows how different Greek and Egyptian sensibilities were about divinity, about femininity, about the relationship between humans and gods. The Romans went further, associating Bastet with Diana, but also sometimes with Venus, the love goddess. They saw the festival of Bastet, with its drinking and dancing and sexual liberation, and thought, fertility cult, love goddess, basically an excuse for debauchery. They weren't entirely wrong, but they missed the depth, the layers, the way Bastet embodied multiple aspects of existence that Romans kept carefully separated. What happened to Bastet worship? It persisted surprisingly late, well into the Roman period, into the early centuries of the Common Era. Bubastis remained a pilgrimage site. Cat cemeteries continued to receive mummified offerings. But eventually, Christianity spread through Egypt, and the old gods were suppressed, temples were closed, and Bastet faded from active worship into myth, into history, into the collective unconscious. But did she really disappear? Look around. We still worship cats. We just don't call it religion anymore. We call it being a cat person. We fill our homes with toys and scratching posts and elevated perches because the cat demands it. We organize our schedules around feeding times. We post thousands of photos online seeking validation through likes and comments. We've built an entire digital economy around cat content. And when you think about it, isn't that exactly what Bastet represented? The voluntary servitude to something smaller and less powerful than us that we nevertheless treat as divine. The joy we get from caring for a creature that doesn't really need us, but chooses to tolerate our presence. The comfort of having a small predator in our home, domesticated danger, contained wildness. Here's something that should make you uncomfortable. At one archaeological site in Egypt, they found a cat cemetery with hundreds of thousands of mummified cats. At first, archaeologists thought religious offerings, evidence of deep veneration. But then they looked closer. Many of the cats were kittens, killed intentionally, their necks broken. They weren't beloved pets. They were bred and killed to create mummies that pilgrims could purchase and offer to Bastet. It's horrifying. It's also revealing. The demand for cat mummies was so high that an entire industry emerged to supply them. Religion became commerce. Veneration became exploitation. The same culture that claimed to worship Bastet, to honor cats as sacred, was mass-producing their corpses for profit. Does that sound familiar? We say we love cats, but we also breed them into forms that cause health problems, we abandon them when they're inconvenient, we euthanize millions in shelters every year. We haven't evolved past the Egyptians, we've just changed the packaging. So here's my challenge to you. Next time you see a cat, whether it's your own pet, a stray on the street, or just another viral video, think about Bastet. Think about the transformation from wild to domestic, from dangerous to adorable, from Sekhmet to house cat. Think about what we gain and what we lose when we take something powerful and make it cute. Ask yourself, are you honoring the wildness or just enjoying the domesticated version? Are you comfortable with the claws or do you only want the purr? Because Bastet, at her core, was both. And maybe that's what made her divine, the refusal to be just one thing, the embodiment of contradiction, the goddess who could be gentle and fierce, protective and dangerous, domestic and wild, all at the same time. Your cat knows this. It's looking at you right now, judging you, deciding whether you're worth its affection or just a convenient source of food. Bastet is still watching, and she's